Hi everyone, it's Mr. Walsh, and today we're going to be reading about Sonia Sotomayor, who was a Supreme Court justice or judge. Before we begin, like always, we want to scroll down to the bottom page, where in a lot of cases it would be the back of the book, and find the glossary. The glossary is going to help us come up with some definitions for those tricky, bold words that we might see throughout the text. There are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bold words that we're going to see throughout the text that if you ever have trouble with, you may go to the glossary at the back to look up the word. The first word is advisors. It means people who offer advice about decisions. The second word is cases. It means situations acted upon in law. Our third word is confirm, which means to approve. Our fourth word is diabetes. It's a medical disorder that causes excessive thirst and the production of a large amount of urine. Our fourth word is investigated, which means to have tried, to have found out about something. Our sixth word is lawyer. It means a person whose job is to give advice about the law or represent people in court. Our second and last word is majority, which means more than half of something. And finally, our last word is representative, which means serving as a symbol or acting for another. If at any point in the text you come across a bold word that makes you struggle to understand what you are reading, come to the back of the book at the very bottom, and you can use this glossary to help you make sense of the word. Now we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to read about this Supreme Court judge. Like always, at the very beginning, you also find a table of contents that goes over what we're going to be reading about. The first section is called A Big Dream. The second section is The Dream Comes True. The third, Picking a New Justice. The fourth section is Finding the Right Person. The fifth section is the Judiciary Committee. The sixth section is the Senate votes. The seventh section is the job of the new justice. The eighth section is the conclusion. And finally, they also include the glossary, so you always know where it is in the book. This is a picture of Sonia. It says Sonia, age 6 or 7 above, grew up in the Bronx neighborhood of New York City. Let's begin to read about Sonia. When you see a bold word, put your thumb up. And then I want you also to go back and think about what does that bold word tell us about Sonia? What does that bold word tell us about the text? Sonia Sotomayor dreamed of becoming a detective when she was a girl. Doctors told her when she was 8 that she had type 1 diabetes. There's a bold word. She had to learn to take good care of herself because this is a serious disease. Doctors told her that she should not be a detective. Sonia changed her dream. She began to dream of becoming a lawyer instead. So she originally wanted to be a detective or work for the police, but because of her diabetes or sickness, she had to change her career, and she went on to become a lawyer, which we read about in the glossary. Let's continue and read the next section. Here's a picture of her. She's visiting the high school she attended to talk to students about their career goals. Sonia had to try her best to make her dream of being a lawyer come true. I want you to make sure you're following along with either your eyes, a pencil, or tracking with your finger as I read. Her parents moved to New York from Puerto Rico. They did not have much money to help her pay for school. Sonia's father died when she was 9. Her mother worked more than one job to support Sonia and her brother. Sonia studied hard in school. She tried to be the best student she could be. She made good grades and won many awards. She won scholarships or money for school to attend Princeton University and then Yale Law School. She was an excellent student, at both schools. So Sonia didn't have the easiest life, and it could have messed up her track or her career goal to become a lawyer, but she still worked hard in school and got to attend great colleges. Let's look at the picture over here and the caption below that. President George H.W. Bush nominated Sonia Sotomayor to be a federal judge in 1991. It's almost 30 years ago. Wow. That was even before I was born. President Bill Clinton nominated her for a higher federal judge job in 1998. Let's read the next section that says the dream comes true. Again, make sure you're tracking with me and reading along. After graduating from law school, Sonia got her first job as a lawyer. Awesome. She made it happen. Her dream had come true. After several years as a lawyer, her dream changed again. She dreamed of becoming a judge. Her dream to become a judge came true in 1991. So again, like once we reach our goal, we've talked about this in school with our growth mindset goals and everything. Once you reach our goal, it doesn't mean it's the end of the road. We can make a new goal. And that's what she did. She became a lawyer. She went to all those great schools, became a lawyer. And now she's like, hey, I want to be a judge instead. So she became a judge in 1991. Let's continue to read. In May 2009, President Barack Obama had to choose a new justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. One of the justices, David H. Souter, was retiring. The president announced Judge Sotomayor was his choice to replace Justice Souter. The president said she had done a great job as a judge and would be a wise judge. As you can see the picture here, it says Justice David H. Souter retired from the Supreme Court in summer 2009. Let's read this Do You Know section. Justices of the U.S. Supreme Court are very important. They decide if laws follow the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution is the country's set of rules and laws that protect our rights. The 9 justices of the Supreme Court make decisions that affect many people. So she went on to become one of 9 judges that help make the rules for this country. Wow. Let's continue to read over here where it says picking a new justice. Again, make sure you're tracking along. Presidents often choose a justice who agrees with them on important ideas. All U.S. Supreme Court justices have worked as lawyers. Many justices have not been judges in other courts, as Sonia has. A justice can be any age. The youngest justice was 32 when chosen. The oldest was 65 when chosen. Presidents often choose a younger person so he or she can work in the court for many years. Sonia was 55 when President Obama chose her. You can look in the picture here. It says Thurgood Marshall, who's in the middle, helped end segregation in schools as a lawyer in 1954. He became a Supreme Court justice in 1967. So they make a lot of big decisions, and they've been making a lot of big decisions for years. So you can tell that Sonia is very important. Let's continue to read and keep an eye out again for those bold words if we see them again. We're over here. Make sure we're tracking. The Supreme Court is over 200 years old. Wow. For most of the time, all of the justices on the court were white men. Yet the justices make decisions that affects all kinds of people in different areas of the country. Some presidents now try to make the court more representative of the country. Should have put your thumbs up. There's a bold word, representative. If you don't know what that means, think back to the glossary. Thurgood Marshall joined the court as its first African-American justice in 1967. Sandra Day O'Connor joined the court as its first female justice in 1981. There's a picture of Sandra Day O'Connor, who is the first female justice. Let's continue over here where it says finding the right person. President Obama, like other presidents before him, asked for help to find the best justice. Lawyers and advisors, another key word, to the president, make a list of people who would make good justices. They checked to make sure the people on the list were fair and that they followed the law. Sonia Sotomayor was on the list. She had been a lawyer and judge for many years. She would be the third woman ever to be a Supreme Court justice. Sonia would join Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the second woman on the court. Judge Sotomayor would be the first Latina and the first person with diabetes to be chosen as a justice. So they had this huge list, and they picked Sonia out of that huge list. She must have been very, very important. This caption says, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is the only other woman on the Supreme Court in 2009. So Sonia joined Ruth, and out of the several people they have on the Supreme Court, two of them, only those two, were women. Let's continue to read. We're almost done. Right over here, make sure we're tracking with those eyes, pencil, or finger. After President Obama talked to Judge Sotomayor, he picked her to be a justice. However, the president doesn't decide who becomes a justice on his own. A majority, thumb should be up, of the U.S. Senate must agree with his choice. So you can see there's a little flow chart over here. After a justice retires or passes away or dies, the president picks a new justice. Then they have to investigate the choice from that list. And then the committee has to tell the Senate, and the Senate either says yes or no. If they say no, the president has to pick someone else. But if they say yes, the justice takes the oath, and then they serve as long as he or she wants or is able. So it's a whole big process to even be picked. So it's so incredible that Sonia was picked to even be on this committee. Here there's a picture that says, Sonia answered many questions about herself and how she did her job as a judge in front of a room full of people. We're going to read the Judiciary Committee. A group of senators called the Judiciary Committee investigated Sonia. There's another word. She answered the senators' questions about decisions she had made as a judge. So they got asked a ton of questions, and they had to answer the right ones. Let's continue reading. She talked about things she had said in speeches. Sonia talked about how she would be fair when deciding cases in the future. The committee reported its findings to the rest of the Senate. The president would have to choose someone else if the Senate did not confirm Judge Sotomayor. There are 3 vocab words there. If you're confused what this section means, go back and check that glossary and then try to come back and read it. But basically it's saying they questioned her, and then the Senate had to go and they decide, is she a good person to be a justice? And if they said yes, she would get to be one. If they said no, the president would have to put a new person out in front of them that would also have to answer a bunch of questions. The Senate votes, which is the most important part. Some people who disagreed with President Obama's ideas also disagreed with choosing Judge Sotomayor. But when the Senate voted on August 6th, 2009, the majority voted to confirm Judge Sotomayor. 2 days later, Sonia Sotomayor took an oath or made a promise to follow the Constitution. She was now the 111th. Wow. She was now the 111th Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Here's a picture of her getting sworn in, saying that she's going to do her duty and that she's promising to do that. It's a very, very important ceremony. Let's read this final section here before the conclusion, called The Job of the New Justice. Make sure we're following along. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor had an office in the Supreme Court building. She had to hire people to work in her office. She also had to learn the rules of the Supreme Court, just as you would learn the rules at a new school. Sonia's main job is now to listen to cases that are brought to the Supreme Court and to make wise decisions. In this picture below, it's President Obama. And it says, Sonia said, President Obama gave her the most humbling honor of her life by asking her to be a justice. Here's the conclusion of the last part. Let's read the caption right here first. It's a room full of a bunch of people. It says, the justices of the Supreme Court with President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden in September 2009. So it's a picture of them with the president and vice president. From left to right, justices are Samuel Alito, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Anthony Kennedy, John Paul Stevens, Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr., then there's President Obama. Then next to President Obama, if you look closely, is Sonia, then Vice President Joe Biden, then Antonin Scalia, then Clarence Thomas, and finally Stephen G. Breyer. Let's finish reading the final section right here. Justice Sotomayor had made many dreams in her life come true. Being a justice is a very important job. Most presidents only get to choose one or two Supreme Court justices during their time in office. It is a very important decision. Justice Sotomayor will try to be the best justice she can be. She could make decisions that affect all of us for 20 or 30 years or maybe even longer. Thank you for listening to me read, and I hope you're reading along as we learned about Chief Justice Sotomayor. Now, if during the week you choose to write and listen and find more about her through videos or other things, if you choose to do more research on her and you want to remember some of the things from this reading, you can always come back to this video and listen again. Thank you guys. Hope you have a great week.